welcome to all of you, and of course to my former colleague, Governor Pierre Luisi. It's always good to see you. I echo the chairman's comments about how important our relationship is with each of you and your governments. And of course, as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, I know how important our relationships are with you, each of you, regarding our national security, so we have much in common. This is a question for Governor Palacios. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Magua and Guerrero. Always good to see you too, Governor Guerrero. I know that you were asked questions about the importance of the compacts that we are now negotiating, so I won't go through all of that, but at the same time, it is important that we change the law that will allow compact citizens that come to Hawaii, Guam, and other places, that they receive the kind of social services that they should be, in my opinion, entitled to. And it took many years to restore Medicaid eligibility to compact citizens. I plan to reintroduce the Compact Impact Fairness Act, which would restore COFA citizens' access to all federal public benefits that are available to other local legal permanent residents. How would restoring access to these federal public benefits mitigate the effects of COFA migration on Guam and the Marianas' budget, and improve health and educational outcomes for COFA citizens? Would you like to start?
I
Madam
can
Governor.
start. Like I said, our brothers and sisters from the outer islands are certainly very welcome to Guam, and they are already accessing a lot of these public services. And I'm certainly very supportive, Senator Hirono, of your legislation, as I was with the Medicaid. And now, as a result of the eligibility for Medicaid in Guam, it is helping us with the impact on the healthcare services. I certainly support it, but I think it should also have, along with it, increase of grant funding to these social services to allow them to absorb the migrant workers to be able to continue and expand these services to them. So I hope that there is some consideration for increase of funding in those various areas, whether it be housing, education. We estimate about $150 million a year of impact to the island. This includes education, healthcare, public safety, and we only get $18 million. And so we absorb the balance of that, and it does impact us tremendously.
Same for Hawaii. So the amounts that come to you and to Hawaii and other places is very short of what is expended to our to take care of our friends. Governors Magua and Palacios, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you. First, I certainly support that the idea of making COFAS, FSM and Micronesian brothers and sisters eligible for Medicaid. That certainly would help defray the cost of health services in the Commonwealth, Guam, and Hawaii, for example. But I think we should also take a look at other social services and other services provided, and perhaps even include them in your bill or maybe subsequent bills that Congress may consider. Because obviously, I totally agree, and it is a fact that, you know, us, Guam and the CNMI and Hawaii are recipients of most of the migrations out of Micronesia. And with our government has basically bear the cost of a lot of these social services and healthcare needs that we provide. So I fully understand and I fully support your legislation and your effort. Thank you.
Would you like to add?
First, I want to thank you for the Consolidated Appropriation Act of 2023 that permanently increased the federal Medicaid match to 83%, 17%. Our dilemma in American Samoa, it's most of us that are American Samoa born qualifies for the Medicaid. That there's a percentage of American Samoa residents that are legal residents in our terms in American Samoa not qualify under the Medicaid program. And we're looking for internal revenues from the government to make sure that we're taking care of this part of the population. In terms of a lot of revenues, grants from federal also does not benefit this group of population, residents of American Samoa. They are not qualified for federal scholarship. They are not qualified for a lot of the educational benefits that all the residents born in American Samoa are qualified for.
Thank you very much for pointing out an area that I would like to learn a little bit more about. It is very clear that we need to do more, and I think if we present a united front in the need for more reimbursements under the compacts or under the legislation that provides support for those areas that are particularly welcoming, I guess, of our compact citizens. I think that's something that we need to look forward to. Now, there's been testimony about the shortage of workers, and yes, all across the country, we're facing very low unemployment. At the same time, I know that there are visa issues that impact, for example, in Puerto Rico and Guam. And I know I'm over my time, but I am the only one here, so I can keep going. So it's going to take some work, I think, for us to work through some of the visa issues that you have to enable you to attract more workers. And with regard to Guam, we were able to put a one-year extension for the H-2B visas. You had wanted a much longer extension. However, we do need to meet some of the Department of Labor's concerns about how these visa holders are treated. I just want to get to the bottom of all of that so we can help you with your workers and also Puerto Rico. And if that is an issue for the other governors, and you need us to address visa issues with regard to you, then I would like to have the commitment from each of you to work with us. Yes, Governor.
And I have to say, Senator, that there are things that we're doing to increase labor force participation through training. We're using CDBG-DR funding to train potential construction laborers. We're doing the same with apprenticeships, and that's something that needs to be done. I issued an executive order requiring that in federally funded construction projects, the minimum wage be $15 an hour for skilled construction workers. And now the construction industry in Puerto Rico is paying more for the labor, as it should. So that should be helping, because we need all the labor we can get, including Puerto Ricans who left the island for looking for better quality of life, for better, equal rights in the States. Now we're telling them, come back. We have good paying jobs, particularly in this construction field. So that's something we're doing, but I have to admit, we are lacking, definitely, at the very least, like 10,000 workers right now. And we see the problems in the border and so on, and we say, this is a common interest here. Let's set up a special program for skilled construction workers using either the H-2B visa program or something similar. That's my proposal. And I have run it both by Secretary Mayorkas as well as the White House and here in Congress.
I wanted to comment, Senator, on the concerns of the Department of Labor. So we treat our workers very well. We have guidelines that we follow with the federal labor laws. We monitor construction sites all the time, and for adherence and compliance to those requirements. In fact, the Philippines just sent out a congressional delegation to review the places of these workers, and they came back with such excellent comments about the way we provide food, clothing, food, housing, medical benefits, labor wages, and so forth. So I think the concerns that the Department of Labor has is very much addressed in the way we treat our H-2B workers in Guam. So we need those H-2B workers. With the increase of military construction and also coming back with economic recovery, with investments in commercial development, housing developments, we also have local training. We have boot camps for shipyard repair, boot camps for plumbing, electricians, but the local labor, the local civilian population just cannot meet the demands
Yes.
of that.
I understand. So, Governor, my hope is that Guam will be able to address and meet the concerns of the Department of Labor. And when that happens, I believe that we will be able to extend the number of H-2B visas that will become available.
Our Department of Labor is working very closely
Good.
with the U.S. Department of Labor.
If I
Thank
may,
you.
Senator, the other thing you have to think is the conversely. The reality is it's happening anyway. Every day, people are dropping off non-citizens on our shores. They're actually going to the immigration office, and then they give them a court date and let them go. Some of them even have tickets to travel to the mainland, so they're already there, and they are being abused. The ones that don't know, the most disadvantaged ones, are being abused because they don't have a system in which they can report. Creating the H-1, the program, will allow them to actually be monitored, and we can assure
Yes.
that they're not being abused.
I agree with you. Thank you for that observation. I know that one of my colleagues is going to be coming, so I will just continue with my questions regarding the lack of workforce. So one of the things that COVID-19 really brought to the fore is how challenged our healthcare workers were. So all across the country, we need nurses, we need other healthcare workers, and is that happening with all of you? And what can we do to address your needs for healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, the range of workers?
I am appreciative as the governor of Virgin Islands for the additional funding we got through the bipartisan appropriations bill that just happened a month ago or so. But the fact is, we are underfunded still in Puerto Rico, in both the Medicaid program and the Medicare program. And the ones who suffer this, among others, are not only the beneficiaries, are the providers, including those who work at hospitals and so on, because we're underfunded. And that causes, it raises the problem, and it increases the problem of getting people. Now, what we're doing in Puerto Rico, finally, that now we have this bankruptcy behind us, is revising pay scales for public servants at large, ensuring that they earn pretty much what they would be earning in the private sector. And that's happening as we speak there, and it includes nurses, for example. So we're raising the pay scales for nurses, the ones who work for the government, for the public hospitals. But I tell you, the underlying problem is lack of equality in our health programs. And that's why you see me advocating for statehood, because that's one instance. And my fellow governors probably face the same.
We have-
Lack of equal treatment in key health programs that in our territories, they're like the Cadillac programs. The commercial plans do not pay as much as Medicare does. And still, we're underfunded in the Medicare program, underfunded in the Medicare Advantage program. The formula that is being used is not adequate. But I think this is something
Common.
where we're all in the same boat.
TEFRA rebasing at our hospitals hasn't been done in 30, 40 years. I mean, we're getting paid the lowest rate. And the ARPA funding has been so useful because it's so flexible and you could use it in so many ways. We're incentivizing nurses and nurses and medical personnel on a whole to move to the islands. But housing and everything else is expensive. I always tell people a bucket of chicken in the Virgin Islands is $50. That puts it in perspective for you, and that's before COVID. So incentivizing them is good, but not only are they lesser paid, and there's a higher cost of living, so it's like a double whammy.
Yes.
Being able to pay more would be great.
You know, it's the workforce issues is a multiplicity of factors, and Governor Pierluisi, Hawaii is a state, but we'd like to have the Medicare reimbursement schedule changed for states like Hawaii. So we need to revisit how those determinations are made all across the country, because there are other states that do not feel that their Medicare reimbursements are what they should be. So apparently my colleague is not coming. So thank you once again, each of you, for being here. And I am going to close this hearing with the notation that members will have until the close of business tomorrow to submit additional questions to you for the record. The committee stands adjourned.